All right, so we'll go ahead and start. Welcome everyone to Spotlight on Bicycling. And tonight we have Paul Arlinghaus from Hoosier Mountain Bike Association. He's the president of that organization. He's going to talk about mountain biking in central Indiana and what they've got planned and things that are going on with that. A couple of housekeeping things. Please be muted unless you're going to talk. We'll have some question answer. You could go ahead and type questions in the chat as well. Or once we get to the question answer portion, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask those as well. And I have one more slide, not too many slides tonight. Let's see if I can get to the next one. All right, so tonight we have Hoosier Mountain Bike Association. Next week, I do not have anything planned. I plan to have Spotlight. I just don't know exactly who it's going to be, so it'll be a surprise. If you have suggestions for future or for organizations to spotlight and future Spotlight on Bicycling, go ahead and type those in the chat, and I'd be happy to look into those as well and give me additional ideas of who to highlight. And I think that's all I've got as far as those. So the other thing is I've got some polls that we're going to do. So first poll is, what are your bicycling interests? And this is check all that apply. So we've got bicycling on roads, bicycling on paved paths, natural surface trails, i.e. mountain biking, bicycling for transportation, bicycling with family and friends, bicycling alone, bicycle touring, bicycling with groups, bicycling on organized drives or fee rides, and bicycling for competition. So, all right, I'm going to end the polling and share it. And no huge surprise, but 100% said bicycling on natural surface trails, so mountain biking, which is great. And then a second is bicycling with family and friends, were the top two. So then secondly, this is more for me, is how did you learn about Spotlight on Bicycling? And again, check all that apply, so I know whether what I'm doing to promote this is working. So we've got BGI's newsletter, social media, email, family friend, staff from Bicycle Garage Indy, or any other. All right. I'll give you 2 more seconds. And then, all right, so our e-newsletter is how most people figured it out or found out about it, and family and friend. That's always good. And then the third poll is actually very specific to mountain biking. So what best describes your favorite trail? So it's beginner, intermediate flow, intermediate technical, expert flow, or expert technical. And then if you're a member of HMBA, and what is your favorite local mountain bike trail? I'll give you about 10 more seconds. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end. All right, so for best or favorite trail is intermediate flow. followed by intermediate technical and expert technical. Half are members of HMBA, and a couple are not, and some are not sure. And one is not, but plans to join, and one's not currently, but has been in the past. And then favorite local mountain bike trail, Brown County State Park is, of course, the highest. I almost didn't put that one in because it's actually a little farther drive than locally, but it's definitely a park that people really, really enjoy. All right, so that's all I've got for the polling. And so, Paul, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away at this point.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So again, it's like a small group. So I'm going to try to go through pretty quickly and then leave as much time for questions at the end. But basically, let's see. There we go. So again, we'll talk about what is HMBA. We'll go through kind of all the HMBA trails and updates on what we're doing, and then some forward-looking stuff, and then questions and answers. So if you want to type questions at any time, Connie can let me know when there's questions. So with a small group, we really should have a lot of time to answer questions. So I just want to start off. I mean, HMBA is one of the many mountain bike organizations in the state of Indiana. I mean, there's no way that one group can fill every niche and do everything that we need in the state in terms of outdoor recreation for off-road cycling. And then, of course, the hikers and horse riders have all their other groups. So there's just, a small army of groups who are all doing their part to help move the ball forward in terms of outdoor recreation in Indiana. So our mission statement is, to promote the responsible mountain biking, work towards goals of common land access and natural resource protection through central Indiana, as well as statewide relationships. So, the statewide comes is that we're good at working with within the framework of the DNR and Hoosier National, and those properties can be spread all over the state. Our core membership, though, is in central Indiana, and so we kind of more local parks. We do take some local parks under our wing in kind of our core area. There's some other groups like the Northern Indiana Mountain Bike Association. There's a Southeastern Indiana Mountain Bike Association. There's a group in Evansville. So there's lots of groups that in each part of the state that look after more of the local parks. And when you start getting the state and national forests, then there's oftentimes partnerships between local and state and even national groups in those properties. So natural resource protection is important here in Indiana. We have a very small percentage of land that's public land here in Indiana. And so not only are we looking at it for recreation, but also the folks who are concerned about habitat and conservation also are interested in that same small amount of land. And so we have to work well with those groups in order to have a seat at the table. So who's responsible for building the trail or running the program that you want? So, this kind of comes back to, there's kind of two ways you can look at things. You can either sit back and wait for someone else to do what you want to do, or you can get, organized and go do it yourself. HMBA, we look for those projects that make sense for us, oftentimes looking at the bigger projects and the ones that have the most chance of success. And so from a statewide standpoint, there are some folks who say, well, hey, why is HMBA building trails in Brown County and Urbana Woods and not at my local park? And, the reality is that local trail access really is most importantly done by those who are local to the trail. We really have found that things are far more political than we ever would have thought. That, hey, we're building trails, this is great, everyone should love it. The reality is that oftentimes we need political support, and those local politicians want to hear not from some guy in Indianapolis, but they want to hear from their local constituents about what they need. And so it's really important that folks who want to have local access to trails, that they get involved politically in advocacy to work towards access in your local area. So this is just kind of a, it's probably an eye chart. Hopefully you guys can see it, but this is a list of all the trails that HMBA has built. It's a total, the total there says 154 miles. I've got over here 129. That's because there's about a 24-mile loop at O'Bannon Woods that we took over, that HMBA didn't build. It was built originally as a hiking trail that fell into disrepair. So we were asked if we would be willing to help maintain it if we could get access to it. We are actually in the process of rerouting many of the sections of that trail. But anyway, so I mean, we've built over 125 miles of trail in the state of Indiana. The value of that construction is $2.4 million. With these trails, either HMBA or another group has stayed behind to maintain those. So the value of HMBA's maintenance is $1.4 million. So really looking at a total of about $4 million of value in trail construction and maintenance over the years. So this is pretty significant because a lot of our parks have very small budgets and they have a very large deferred maintenance. I believe the DNR's deferred maintenance is around $300 million. So when they get money for deferred maintenance, it's going to buildings and inns and swimming pools and the wastewater treatment plants, not necessarily to the trails. So I think that's a fairly important difference between us and some of the other user groups. We, the mountain bike community, really take ownership of these trails and full responsibility of maintaining them. So it's not to say that the park staff don't occasionally help us, but if there's an issue that needs to be dealt with, we're the ones who primarily step up and take care of it. And it's pretty rare that we ask for help, and when we do ask for help, there's sometimes where they simply can't, and we figure out how to do it either with volunteers or with funding. So how we managed to put that much value on the ground? Well, part of it's through large grants. So we've had a pretty successful run of managing large grants. RTP's recreational trail program that's comes from the gas tax. So it's federal money that's administered through the state. There was a state trail grant in 2008, another couple more RTP grants at Southwest Way and O'Bannon Woods. Hobbs Hollow was built through a destination trail grant. That's the state of Indiana tourism grant. And then the current next level trail grant that's at Brown County State Park. A lot of other groups have given us smaller grants to support those. Most of these grants have matching requirements. And so we typically matched with smaller grants from other groups, as well as donations and then volunteer efforts. So we've taken this money and then put another almost $280,000 towards those grants. So just kind of going through our trail systems, no particular order. So Southwest Way, Dave Gardner's retiring as our trail rep. It's always hard to replace that one person. So we've got a group of folks who are getting organized. They actually now have a scheduled work sessions first and third Wednesday of the month, starting actually this week. And their first major project is for signage on the property. So that's a good project because it involves them working with park staff, and it's going to help them get organized at Southwest Way. It's really kind of a neat, the glacier stopped there and dropped a big pile of gravel. So there's the most elevation of anything in Indianapolis. It dries really well because it's a small layer of dirt on top of gravel, and it's a fairly diverse trail system. The only challenge for folks who are new there is that it's a lot of trails in a small area. So it takes you a little while to kind of figure out the trail system. There's just a lot of intersections, which provides a lot of trail mileage and options, but your first time there, it might take a little while to get situated. Town Run, one of our original trails that HMBA took on. So really, we're generally in the mode of flood recovery this time of year and general maintenance. We generally in midsummer will have some regularly organized work sessions, but this time of year we're really beholden to the weather. Some midsummer it's with weed whacking and trimming, as well as dirt work to keep the drainage correct. There's a new town-run advisory council, which we think will be good for us in the long run. We got a lot of strong support from HMBA folks on that committee or on that council. Scott Helvey from BGI is on the executive board, so that looks like it's going in a good direction for us. Ferdinand, probably not on everyone's radar screen, but in southern Indiana, it's a state forest, and if you like climbing, this is a pretty cool little park. And if you really just want to get out and not be around a lot of people, this is a cool park to go check out. Obviously, Brown County State Park. So a lot of our maintenance is done by, we have a system where each trail has someone who's adopted it, and they kind of go out and do general maintenance and report back when bigger projects are needed. We also then report to our chainsaw crews where the trees are at that need to be cut out. We on the HMBA trails, we primarily do the chainsaw work. So it keeps us busy, keeping the trails cleared, and we try to keep them, especially in the summertime, get trees out within a couple of days so that we don't have reroutes or rogue trails, people scampering around the trees. So a lot of, may not seem like it, but there's kind of a behind the scenes, a lot of communication and effort to keep that trail maintained. Spectrum Trail Designs is Alex Stewart's company. They've done most of the pro trail building in Brown County, and we have actually started to incorporate trail maintenance with them. So especially in Hobbs Hollow, which is a flow trail and has a lot of dirt to move to really keep dialed in. They did a refurb project on Limekiln this past year. If you've rode Limekiln this year and noticed some changes, that's from funding that paid a pro trail crew to go in and do some work. So we recently, the latest trail was weed patched, so fun little intermediate kind of flowy-ish trail. Great fun going down. You got to pay the price to get back up, but seemed to be a pretty successful trail. It really was aimed at providing the flow experience for more beginner and intermediate riders, with Hobbs still being the, if you're an advanced rider that wants to catch air and open up going downhill, that Hobbs is the primary trail for that. Just some history, just to keep in mind, these landscapes are more than just mountain bike trails. This is the picture of what is now where the park office is at. This is weed patch on the top of Brown County State Park, and there's a cabin that was all homesteaded. Some folks that were industrious and tried to make some side money by moonshining down in the valleys there at Brown County. So most of Brown County State Park was at one time farmed, and so it's I think we look at it as this virgin forest, but really that landscape was really altered as it was farmed in the 1900s. Trail diversity. So this kind of plays into the poll that we had, and the reality is we kind of have this bell curve, is that most people fall kind of in this intermediate trail range. When we build trails, the trails that we see with the most volume of traffic and the most people who really like them are those intermediate trails. Intermediate trails usually can be fun for the advanced riders too, and sometimes your beginner riders can ride those if they're willing to walk a few sections. But this is really kind of where the sweet spot is in terms of making the most people happy. But if we want to get new people in the sport, we got to have these beginner trails. These are just as important. Our beginners oftentimes they can't, they're less likely to want as much mileage as some of our intermediate riders. So these trails can be a little shorter and sometimes should be to give folks that small taste of mountain biking and a trail that's friendly for them to get involved. And then of course we need some trails too for those folks who are really more on the aggressive side or the more experienced side, to really challenge them. And a lot of times this is the group you hear about a lot on Facebook and social media telling us we need more hard trails, which is fine, but you just want to keep in mind that the sweet spots here in the middle. And what we've strived for in HMBA is to build this really diverse mix of trails, that every trail we build is a little different, and we're always thinking about what's that piece that each trail system needs. If we get all expert trails, we really should start building some more easier trails. So if you look at Brown County with that philosophy, the green lines are beginner trails, blues intermediate. black is expert, and then red is super, extremely difficult. So it really kind of shows that diversity. This is the campground. So when Limekiln, the next section of Limekiln's finished, we'll have a nice loop that's all based off the campground. And we have beginner trails off the north loop with intermediate and expert in between. And this is part of why Brown County is such a destination trail system, is because groups can come here. And if you're if your group has some expert riders, they have plenty of trails to ride. If you have some beginner riders, they have trails to ride, and then everything in between. So the current grant that we're operating at Brown County State Park is a Next Level Trails grant. See this section right here was built. This is the Weed Patch Trail. This section right now is currently under construction. We hope to have open early summer. The route changed a little bit in here. It'll actually connect over here to Limekiln. There still will be another spur that comes down to the nature center. And then probably next year we'll work over on this side, which will be Weed Patch. Will continue from Bobcat over to HP. And then there'll be one more trail, probably a downhill trail, a downhill specific trail using the elevation there into HP Valley. For those in the area who want more rugged backcountry experience, so we've got some trails over in Yellowwood. These are connected to Brown County State Park through 10 o'clock lines. So from the Brown County campgrounds, you can ride over here. This is a very, much more rugged, steep trail, and even when Brown County State Park is crowded, this one you'll be lucky to see a few other people over here. So again, just nice diversity of experience. You can just see a couple pictures of what the trail looks like. This is when we were building it. Actually, we were in some really steep and rugged terrain. And there's a few drops and things out there to keep you on your toes. So for those who haven't experienced O'Bannon, it's down the southern part of Indiana, a little bit west of Louisville. It is very rocky. It's almost feels like Appalachia. I think it is kind of the northern tip of the Appalachian mountain line or range. And so when building trails at O'Bannon, there were actually times that we struggled to find dirt. So there's a really good organized group down there. Some local folks to that trail. We also get a lot of folks that come across from Louisville to O'Bannon, the folks that like the more rugged trail system. We do have a flow trail down there that's pretty cool. So a lot of excitement down there. Again, those guys are busy doing trail work and maintenance, keeping the trails cleared. These are some pictures from the Adventure Hike Trail. So this was the 24-mile trail that was built to be a hiking trail. This is really like some of the almost Pisgah-ish experience. So it's a great day, a great way to spend some time with your bike. There will be times where you'll be pushing your bike up the steep hills and then hanging on for dear life on the way down. But there's some overnight shelters. People, a lot of hikers will backpack over multiple days and stay in the shelters. It's a pretty cool experience with some good views of the Ohio River, as well as Indian Creek and Blue Creek. There's one of the views at O'Bannon. So just really lots of cliffs and caves and big rocks. There's one of our volunteers out weed whacking. So local crew is working with State Forest to improve the adventure trail. So there's some sections that we can make more fun while at the same time providing better scenery and making them more sustainable. We're currently working on a section near the Iron Bridge, and you can go to the O'Bannon Facebook page if you're interested in their trail work schedule. Fort Harrison, I mean, that's an interesting state park. It's in an urban area, which puts a lot of pressure on it. So this park gets more people per acre than probably any other state park. Trails take a beating from all the trail use. So, we're really in the mode of armoring, draining, and improving those trails. Those trails do close. So they're closed now. They'll stay closed into April until the leaves start to come out, just to help protect the natural resources in the trail. And just, the trails at Fort Harrison are a little different than town runs. So they're not too far apart, but just the feel of the trail, the flow is different. And that experience is different, so it allows you to change the pace. Some days I feel like town run, and some days I feel like Fort Harrison. Hoosier National Forest Trail D. This is a trail that connects Yellowwood to Hoosier National for folks that really want the backcountry experience. We work with Hoosier National to open that trail to mountain bikes, and it's a pretty cool little trail. It's they actually came in with mules and built it with a plow, and then gravel armored it. So it's pretty hardy in bad weather, and it's a fairly beginner to intermediate level trail with about 300 feet of elevation. So definitely worth checking out. Future, so there's some discussions about some trails on Browning Mountain. We're just looking for the resources to pull that off. One of the big things that's happened over the last few years is NICA, so the National Interscholastic Collegiate National Intercollegiate Cycling Association. So this is high school sports for mountain biking, basically, and I think also for folks younger than high school age. Really important to the future of outdoor recreation to get kids involved. We're seeing more kids that would, not everyone wants to play football or basketball, and cycling is just a great sport where folks who are competitive can do their thing, and other folks can just be more social and just enjoy getting outdoors. So really excited to see that league take off, and they even they had their first season last year in the middle of COVID and still managed to move the ball forward. So we're excited to see what happens this year and next. One of the things is that for a NICA course is that the requirements for the course are pretty specific and focused on making it a safe, fun experience for kids, and that's different necessarily than what 30-year-old guys wanted 10 or 15 years ago in terms of rugged technical challenge way out in the woods. So even at Brown County State Park with our large trail system, we currently don't have a loop that really works well for a NICA course. So the current lime kiln loop project that we're doing was actually took the criteria of the NICA course and took that into mind as we designed that trail to make sure that we had a loop that would work for a NICA event. The other thing we've done is work with the city of Lafayette. They came to us and said they had a property they were interested in developing mountain biking. And we said, we talked to them and suggested that they take the playbook for a NICA course and use that as their design guide for the property. That they should design a park from the ground up to be for, to support NICA. And, like we think like communities build soccer fields and baseball fields, we hope that this is going to be the example for other places in Indiana, that they can build facilities for kids cycling, and it doesn't need to be on the landscape of a Brown County State Park, but you can build things that are going to get kids out recreating safely and then attract people to your area for those events. So HBA's pledged $10,000 towards that park. So that's Stone Eater Bike Park. Family focused and youth focused, sports local economy and physical fitness, commitment from the community to support the project. And yet, no matter how great this story is, there's opposition. So the county commissioners apparently are not supportive of this project. And so certainly if you're involved in NICA, you may want to go on Facebook and find the Stone Eater mountain bike facility and check to see the things you can do to help that move forward. And this just kind of illustrates kind of the challenge that HMA is going to have in the coming years. So mountain bikers, we're younger, we're recreational focused. We travel, so we go and see mountain biking in parks all across the country. And long-term, we think about the well-being and financial impact of these trails. And our user group thinks, well, this is a no-brainer. These trails are great. We should have more. And certainly our land managers are going to support more trails. The reality in Indiana, however, is that recreation isn't really part of the culture of Indiana. It's just not, this isn't a Colorado where people move here for recreation. And as a result, it's not funded very well. And our city parks and even our state parks and state forests aren't funded well for recreation, which makes them resistant to want to add more trails. More trails is more trail users. It's more people that get lost or injured. So even if we do all the maintenance, it still creates more work for them, and their funding is low to support that. So they also have a more local view of what parks should be. Their view of parks is based off, of Indiana only, and not traveling the country looking at what other parks are doing in other places of the country. The folks in like the Bentonvilles and in other parts of the country where they're really rallying around the economic impact of trails. I don't know that in Indiana that's not really. I don't think has gotten through to our politicians yet that recreation can be a big financial driver. So unfortunately, I mean, the future success is probably going to be much more influenced by politics. And it's going to be very important that the mountain bike community and the trails community becomes politically engaged, and to make sure our politicians understand the need and the value of recreation. Short term from COVID, I mean, so we've saw this big hit in trail, or giant spike in trail use last year. And I think a lot of people are like, well, this is great. There's more people in the trail. Everyone's going to want more trails. Our parks, however, are hit with, our governments are hit with this budget crunch, and we'll see how we come out of it with the, it'll just be interesting to see how everything comes back and how all this stimulus money comes out, of how it all shakes out at the end of the day for our parks in terms of budget. But I know that at least initially right now, they're very afraid to commit to new things, not knowing the long-term budget impacts of COVID. So it's kind of that perfect storm of more use, but then financial concerns about providing more recreation. This kind of looks just at Indianapolis. I mean, in well-being, we're 133rd out of the top 188 communities. Our park score in 2017, we were 98th out of 99 largest metropolitan areas. One of the things against the parks here in central or in the Indianapolis area is funding. Indy parks are funded very low compared to other major cities, and again, that just makes it very hard. We've had folks in the past who've made the mistake of going to park managers and saying, hey, if you let us build trails, we're going to bring all these more people to your park. And the park managers are like, I don't need more people at my park. My budget's already limited. My staff's already overworked, and more people means more work that we don't have the funding to take care of. So it's hard to understand that, but the reality is that going to some park, you got to be careful of telling a park manager that you're going to bring more people to their park, especially if it's a park that doesn't generate revenue from usage. So really, how do you guys get involved? I mean, it's, again, being engaged politically, talking to your city councilor or your state legislators. These folks are accessible. You can reach out and talk to your city councilor or your state legislators. Make sure you know who's running in your district. Obviously, when someone just gets elected, they don't need your vote for another 2 to 4 years. So they're probably going to be, even more willing to talk to you as they lead up to their elections. And certainly your vote counts. I mean, everyone at a minimum should be voting and making sure folks know, what's important to your vote. But you also can be engaged in the election process. And that means if you find someone who is pro for trails, or that maybe even you just support, again, we're party neutral. There's certainly mountain bikers on all political sides. So if you have a candidate that you like, then go volunteer for them while they're running. Go help them get elected, get to know them. And then when they get elected, you can go and talk to them about the importance of recreation and trails and in supporting our parks. So I think we're a younger demographic. We're out riding our bikes and having a good time and working in the woods. But if we don't take the time to be politically active, then other people are going to make the decisions for us. And that's it. So that's the end of the presentation I had. And so that's just, if we want to open up the questions and whatever direction you guys want to go.
Okay, there are a couple of comments. One, I just wanted to make a slight correction. It's not the city of Lafayette, it's the city of Lebanon.
Oh, you're correct. Yep, Lebanon.
Yeah, we're Stone Eater. And Bicycle Garage Indy is also a $10,000 sponsor for that, or a silver level sponsor, whatever that is. So had a question about where could they get a list of the number of the trails for the list that you provided of all the different trails. Where would someone be able to find that?
The best tools, so if you're just looking for all the trails in Indiana or in really anywhere in the country, there's two programs that we suggest. And one is Trail Forks, although they have become pay for service. They'll let you look at your local area, but then charge you if you want national usage of their program. But these have both, the other one is MTV Project. So it's Trail Forks and MTV Project, and they both have apps that would be on your cell phone. So you can go on the website and get information, but then also while you're out riding, you have access and you download those maps to your phone. So even if you get out of cell phone coverage, you still can look at where you're at on those maps. Let me try to share again. All right. You see Trail Forks here. So as you zoom in, oh, come on. There you go. So like there's Town Run, there's Fort Harrison. Let's go someplace a little, some more trails would be down here at Brown County. And so if you click on the individual trail, it shows you elevation and has information on them. A lot of times there'll be pictures. And both this and MTV Project, like I said, it's really great because you put the app on your phone, and then when you're out riding, if you're not sure where you're at, you pull up your phone and it shows you where you're at on the map. So, so this is a good way to find trails both in Indiana and really anywhere in the country as you're traveling.
Let's see. So I think those are the main questions. Anybody else have any additional questions? You could either unmute yourself or type in. One is, are you part of the Dino series?
Well, so the Dino series is a for-profit race organization, and they are separate from HMBA. However, they are supporters of HMBA. So Brian Holshausen runs the Dino series, and I was racing back when he took over that series. So we're separate separate organizations, but we definitely work together over the years.
Yeah, and the secondary comment is hoping the races go this year.
Well, Brian was successful last year in running them, so yeah, I would be surprised. I know that he also does trail running races, and they held their first race at Mountains State Park, I think last weekend or 2 weekends ago. So that's a positive sign for the Dino races going on.
Yeah, so if someone wanted to find out the volunteer for different trails, does each trail have their own page to find that out?
I think that we've largely settled on Facebook being our primary source of pushing information. And so then each trail system typically has its own Facebook page where those things would be posted.
Okay.
We're trying to get a little better at posting some signage at the parks for folks that aren't on Facebook. I kind of miss the old days before Facebook when it was just on our HMBA forum and we had one place that people looked for information. Now it's just hard because people want it posted on multiple different platforms. And sometimes it's a little hard to manage.
Let's see. So the NICA races, there's going to be 4 this year. And I can't remember where they said they were going to be. Lynn might know where the NICA races are going to be. They're going to be in the fall. And so it's a statewide league.
It's one I think I know it's Griffin, Southwest Way, I think Winona Lake, and then I'm not sure where the other one's at.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So
Hebron.
yeah,
Yeah. Southwest Way, Hebron, Griffin. I don't know where Hebron is, but Stony Run in Hebron. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah. And then hopefully not this year, but hopefully next year, then Brown County will be added to that list. So.
Steve King has said that the Stone Eater Bike Park meeting is on the 24th, so a week from Wednesday at 7 p.m. With the county commissioners.
Yep.
That's in the chat. So if anybody would like to attend that. And then also Southwest Way work times this Wednesday with a question mark. Is that correct?
It's on Wednesday. It's gonna be the first and third Wednesday. I want to say 6 p.m., but I'm not 100% sure yet. Let me see if they have it posted on their Facebook page.
One of the things I found
It
out.
says 5 p.m. until dark.
5 p.m. till dark.
Yeah.
One of the things I found out within the city county council in Indianapolis is Dan Boots actually likes to mountain bike. And his district includes Town Run Trail Park. So you never know.
Well, and that's kind of, so, I mean, there's been the formation of a town run advisory council, and there was some concern about how that was going to play out. Well, it turns out one of our HMBA volunteers lives next door to Dan. So we met with Dan, and he's actually sitting in our town run advisory council meetings to help us. So those relationships with city councilors are really, really important. And I think as a user group, I mean, when mountain bike started, we were all younger, and our connections to city councilors and state legislators were pretty few. I mean, I don't know. If I take my hat off, you can see my gray hairs. As we age, we suddenly look around, and our peers are now city councilors and legislators, and those relationships are important to help move forward.
Yeah, so one of the things I've been gathering different stories from people about mountain biking with the idea of gathering those and creating a letter to the city county council at large to garner support for mountain biking in Indianapolis. So I'm still working on gathering those and creating the letter to get to people. But if any of you have stories you would like to share of, how meaningful mountain biking is, I'm mostly looking for also young people. And I've gotten 20 really cool stories. I just now have to gather them. And I've got photos of young kids riding, and one of the profiles I remember was a father whose son on spring break last year said he wanted to go mountain biking all spring break. And so they went to Southwest Bay Park, and that's what they did every day of spring break last year. So it was, it was just really cool stories. So once I gather all of those, I'm on the Indianapolis Mayor's Bicycle Advisory Council. So as the council, we're going to pull these stories together and have a letter of support for mountain biking. But I'm always looking for more stories, because I think that's how you garner support, is they need to see stories from people of why this is meaningful.
Yeah, and that's again why, like the beginner, the trails that are accessible to the non-hardcore riders are important. If all we built was trails like Schooner Trace and Walnut at Brown County, then there would still be a very small niche group. One of the rewarding things at like a town run is seeing over the years the folks who you see show up on a bike that's, fairly inexpensive or a hand-me-down, and you can tell that they're not in the greatest of shape, and they go ride a lap of town run and get hooked on it, and you see them a few months later and they're on a little bit better bike and they're looking a little bit more in shape. And then a few months later you're down at Brown County and there's this person now riding at Brown County that a few months ago could barely do a lap of town run. And just to see those folks that then make really life-changing improvements of health and fitness, and then getting their kids involved, seeing those families come out, the little kids on Strider bikes, and then when they grow up and start riding faster than all of us and beating us at the Dino races. So it's cool to see that development of the youth. Town Run was open. So Town Run, I moved to Indianapolis in 1998. At the time, we were riding at what is now Town Run. It was not an official park. There were actually some trails on the north side of 96th Street that got plowed under by a developer. And that kind of is what got HMBA to form, was we were seeing the loss of trail access. And probably around 2003 is when Town Run became a park. It's actually, the land is still owned by three entities, Mark Marietta, the Homeowners Association, and then what was originally Mr. Daugherty's property. It's now Century Land Trust, and there's a recreational easement for that land. So it became a park in about 2003, and we started, probably over a course of about 5 or 6 years, taking that original kind of hodgepodge trail system and updating it to what it is today.
When did the trails at Fort Bend open, Fort Harrison State Park?
It's on my cheat sheet.
Yeah.
I'll pretend like I'm remembering
the park
this.
Itself opened in 1996, but it was quite a while.
Around 2011 and 12.
Yeah, that's what
Again, the story in that is it's being in the right place at the right time. At the time, we had a DNR director who was very friendly to us and very gung-ho about outdoor recreation. Mitch Daniels was very much getting people out recreating. We had a meeting with the director of the DNR. We weren't even planning on talking about Fort Harrison. We knew there'd be huge opposition for a mountain bike trail at Fort Harrison. And the DNR director started talking about this Hoosier outdoor experience, and he wanted to have it at Fort Harrison and wanted us to be involved. And we were kind of like, well, if you want us to be involved at Fort Harrison, it'd be great if there was a mountain bike trail there for people to ride. And he made it happen over top of some folks that really, really didn't want it to be there. So, the advocacy thing is, a lot of persistence and hard work, and then you combine that sometimes with some luck. So I think the example is, for those that know about Bentonville, people look at Bentonville and say, wow, this is what everyone should try to do. Well, Bentonville, I've been there. I've actually gone to a work day with the local volunteers, and they were doing just what we're doing, which is building these trails. And they actually got the Walton grandkids to start mountain biking, who then influenced their grandfather and made mountain biking and trails a a really big initiative of the Walmart Foundation with its funding as well as political support. And so, again, it's that advocacy. Not everyone's going to have a Walton family get as much behind outdoor recreation as they have, but you just got to keep plugging along and take the wins when you can get them.
Any other questions? Don't see any. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And I just want to thank Paul for all of your efforts over the years and also for presenting tonight. And we did get you did get a kudo earlier of somebody wanted to pass on their appreciation to HMBA for trail development and maintenance.
Great. Yeah, we appreciate it. And it's awful fun to get out there and ride. It was great. We had an unusual string of days earlier last week, and it was awesome to get out in the trails and see everyone out riding. So I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook or so if you ever have trouble getting a hold of me, obviously you could probably reach out to BGI too. They could put in touch with me. But yeah, if you got questions about mountain biking, let me know, and if I can't answer it, I can probably find someone that can.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And thanks everyone for joining us, and have a great rest of your evening. And hopefully you'll enjoy mountain biking on all the trails this year. Be awesome.
Yep. Thanks for organizing this, Connie. Thanks to BGI.
You're welcome. Take care.